Hello class and welcome to chapter 6. In this chapter we're going to be talking about the BCG Matrix and a few other strategies. So let's get started. So first, the BCG Matrix was a matrix that was created by the Boston Consulting Group. You should have ran into this theory a number of different times in previous classes, so I won't spend too much time getting into the nuts and bolts of it, but we'll review it at a high level today. First off, the BCG Matrix looks at strategies according to two different axes: market growth and relative market share. What market growth refers to is how quickly or aggressively the marketplace for that product or department is growing. Market share refers to how much market share or ownership does that particular product or department have within its industry. We could put these in two different categories, either high or low. And when you cross the high or low for both axes, you get a four-quadrant grid, which is what we have displayed here. When we have a product or department that fits within high market share growth rate and low relative market share, we have what's called a question mark. When we have a product or department that fits within low market growth rate and low market share, we have what's called a dog. When a product fits within high market share and low market growth rate, we have what's called a cash cow. And when we have high for market share and high for market growth rate, you have what's called a star. So you want to evaluate each product or department according to these two axes and simply drop them into high or low. That's going to place that product or department squarely into one of these four quadrants. There's different strategies that are recommended for each quadrant. For example, a star, the strategy is to continue to invest more resources, time, money, employees, and everything to help that product grow into the most that it can possibly be, because the market share is growing and also your product is viewed as one of the leaders in the marketplace. For a cash cow, the strategy is to milk that product for as much profit as you can. Ideally, you're in a high market share, the marketplace is not growing very significantly, but you're bringing in lots of profit. Take that profit, reinvest that profit into a star so your company can continue to grow overall at a very aggressive rate. When you have a product that's a dog, and you have low market share and low market growth rate, the general recommendation is to divest that product or to simply not invest very much into it. You want to be careful here because simply to divest is not always the right answer. You may have a product that is required. For example, with HP, for many years, back in the early 2000s, HP would lose money on every printer they sold. Technically, it would be considered a dog. Low market share and also low market growth rate. They're losing money hand over fist. However, they were making a lot of money off of their ink sales. If they were to divest or get rid of their printers, they would have lost all the upstream revenue from the ink. In that case, you don't want to divest. So divest is a general recommendation, but you want to look closely to make sure that's the right strategy for that particular product. Lastly, we have high market growth rate, low market share. This is a question mark. The question is, the market is growing very aggressively. Lots of room for great growth, lots of room for possible profit. However, your product doesn't own a lot of the market share. What are you going to do? Are you going to invest more money in it and hope it turns into a star? Or are you going to withhold resources and allow it to drop down to a dog and consider divesting it? So we call this a question mark. And it really goes to how much senior management believes in that particular product so that they'll invest accordingly. Another important strategy is called cost leadership. Now these strategies I'm going over, the four that we just covered and the two additional ones I'm going to cover for the remaining part of this lecture, are called generic strategies. They're called generic strategies because you can generically apply these strategies to any product, irregardless of industry, irregardless of company background, employees. They're a generic strategy. Then you customize the strategy to that particular company or organization. Cost leadership is a generic strategy. And what this strategy recommends is that you reduce as much expenses as possible within the company. Try to manufacture the product for as low as possible. Do your delivery and shipping for as low as possible. Organize your company in such a way to drive down all organizational expenses and costs. And what you do then is you pass the cost savings on to your customer so that your customer is able to buy the product at a very low price. This helps to grow the market share and to increase the number of people who are buying the product because the product now is at a price where it's more affordable. Another strategy is differentiation. The differentiation strategy is the complete opposite of the cost strategy. In fact, it says to go and invest more money in research and development in product development so that you can have the best product features possible. Invest more money in quality, buy premium materials so that your product comes out top quality and top notch. Because of the top quality that your product offers and all the product features and extra benefits, you're able to charge a higher price. So you're able to capture higher margins on your product. This is very different than the cost strategy, which focuses on having low cost, so you have low margins, but you're selling a ton of products. So you can compare and contrast these two strategies. Differentiation says, have lots of product features, have best quality, I sell few products, but I have a great margin on those products. Where a cost strategy says, I have low margin, I'm selling kind of a bare bones or a scaled down version of the product, but I'm selling a whole bunch of them because the price is low. If you think about this strategy, you see it play out every day in corporate America. Mercedes, for example, would be pursuing a differentiation strategy, whereas Kia pursues a cost strategy. It's also something else you want to consider when it comes to strategies, and that's timing. There's a concept that's called a first mover's advantage, which means that the first company to offer that product or service, the first company to establish their brand within customers' minds, typically becomes a the go-to company. And they have the dominant market share, very difficult for other competitors to come and take that market share away. For example, think about Federal Express. Federal Express was first to market with that type of strategy, and if you think about it, we even use the word FedEx as a means to describe overnighting a product. Late movers are people who come afterwards. So after the market's been established, customers already understand who the players are, then the late movers come into the marketplace. And at that point, they're trying to develop their brand, they're trying to get into the minds of customers, but the mind space for customers is already taken up by the first movers. So it's very difficult typically to gain a substantial share of the marketplace if you're late. And then also you have competitive strategies and cooperative strategies. Cooperative strategies you'll see companies using more and more nowadays. The days where you typically thought of your competitors as the enemy, that we must destroy them because they're the bad guys, they're the enemy, and we don't want this competition. Those days have actually changed, and organizations are realizing that they can accomplish more by working together in some cases. True enough, they're still competitors, but it doesn't mean that they're 100% competitors. They may be, in fact, cooperating on different initiatives or products to grow the marketplace, and thereby both organizations do better. For example, would you believe that many of the parts in HP's computers are actually manufactured by Dell computers? So the better HP does, the better Dell does as well. Another concept here is collusion. Now, collusion is when two or more firms work together to set the prices in the industry. And this is illegal because now you're working together to control supply and demand so that you can charge ideally higher prices to customers and competitors who may be buying the product as well. You're charging higher prices to overinflate your margin. So this goes against the free market system, and collusion is typically regarded as being illegal. That wraps it up for Chapter 6. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, or if we're meeting for physical class, bring your questions to class. Thank you, and don't forget to study.